Hello, I'm Polly Hill for FSGB, and this is the latest in our series of podcasts. I'm delighted today to introduce you to Teodora Byrne, who is a pioneer and published writer devoted to helping employers understand neurodivergence, neuroinclusion. She's recently written a course on the subject. Welcome, Teo.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm really
Absolute
excited
pleasure.
to be here.
That's fantastic. So where does this come from, this desire to be a pioneer for this subject? What's first inspired you to focus your writing, your teaching and advocacy on helping employers through this journey?
Well, as some people may know or not know, I do have 3 neurodivergent children. So I guess the way all of this started was through raising them. The reason why I focus on adults as opposed to children is because, well, first of all, there are so many incredible people in the community that do so much work for early years and for the educational side of things. I thought to myself, that's the last thing I need to get involved in because there's a lot out there. But then I figured out that actually for adults, especially for those that may be, late diagnosed or undiagnosed at all, there's not a lot of stuff out there that can support, especially when it comes to the workplace. So I thought I would focus on that. I'd focus on working with organizations in, different sectors and just to try and do it that way, to offer the support to those that I guess tend to be left behind just because they're adults. So that's why I started focusing on what I'm doing now and kind of steered away from, more child focused as I had first started.
What would you say the current state of the workplace is as regards neurodiversity awareness and what that actually means?
Do you know what? I think we cracked the awareness
Right.
side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, you see CPD courses flying everywhere. You see, HR getting involved with getting that awareness course out to staff and to leaders, which is great. But awareness is not enough. I mean, we're all aware of what is happening around us, but just because we're aware doesn't mean we're doing anything about it. So I think we're still quite a long way from making meaningful cultural change. And I think that's where we need to move away from awareness. So we've got that nailed. That's fantastic. But what do we do now? What do we do with what we know? How do we apply it in real life? And how do we move on from there?
And this, I guess, has to be a culture shift because it feels like quite a minefield to an employer, I would imagine, of just how to deal with this and how to make sure that you are looking after people properly and in the right way. And I think also when I was putting together the questions for this, and I also have a neurodivergent child, so even me in that position, I'm still worried about using the wrong terminology. And I think that for employers, that's a bit of a minefield.
See, I can understand that, but the thing is that when you put the effort into something and when you are willing to learn, you will make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. No one is going to chastise anyone for making a mistake if the intention no, but if the intention is the right one, that's a good place to start because not everyone knows everything from the get-go. You learn by doing, you learn by asking uncomfortable questions, you learn by getting it wrong. So I guess that if as a culture, as a society, we are willing to even do it wrong in a bid to actually learn and to move from intention to integration, that's absolutely fine. Because people, I think the problem is that people want perfection from the start. Right? If we don't get it 100% right now, then we're not going to do it anymore. And that's wrong because, well, first of all, perfection is unattainable and it's not, a long-term thing, and that's fine. But that's not what people should strive for. I mean, how does the saying go? Something along the lines of, a drop in the ocean creates ripples. So if you start with something small, or if you start with the right intention, then eventually, with the right people around you, you can grow that into something meaningful. So I think that's how we move away from it.
And what are the most common misconceptions about this? I know times yeah. I'll tell you what, actually, let's start with another question. Could you explain to our listeners the difference between neurodiversity and neurodivergence and what those two things mean? You explained it to me very well recently.
Right. Well, neurodiversity is humanity. Okay. So we're all neurodiverse because not two brains work the same. Neurodivergence, however, refers to the group of people whose brains work differently from what is classed as the norm. So someone that is autistic is neurodivergent, not neurodiverse.
Thank you.
Us here in the room, we are a neurodiverse group, because you may or may not have, a diagnosis yourself, and I may or may not have my own, but they don't necessarily match.
Yes.
But neurodivergent is each individual person that, whose brain is working outside of the, I guess, societal accepted way of being. So that is the difference.
What do you think are some strengths that neurodivergent people could bring to the workplace which are unique? Because I have a bit of a feeling about this, that in some cases this can be a superpower. It's almost like it's the next stage of evolution. There's something amazing about the way my son's brain works, which is very different to the way my daughter's does. And I wonder, what of those strengths could they bring to the workplace and just give that amazing boost? I mean, we know that people like Elon Musk, not a great example. There are some very, very famous people, very successful people who have autism, ADHD, any number of these neurodivergencies.
Yeah. No, I mean, first with the superpower, that is something that personally I strongly disagree with.
Okay.
The reason is because it kind of lays the foundation that just because you are a great pattern recognizer, for example, all the other needs are minimized. So to refer to someone like, oh, you're autistic, so therefore you'll have this superpower of numbers, or you're a great math genius, or, anything of that sort, I think it kind of takes away from the differences and the difficulties that still arise. It's not a superpower, it's not a less than power, it's just the way the mind operates. So in terms of strength, I mean, it depends if you look at it stereotypically or if you look at it, as a whole. I mean, you've met one autistic person. So yeah, you can't generalize, but typically, I guess it is the pattern recognition. I found that in my children and in myself, that we work and we operate on patterns and rhythms and sequences. And it's almost like it's innate. It doesn't take a lot of thought process to recognize these things. So it's not something that we do on purpose. It's just something that we pick up in our environment. We are sticklers for social justice. So if something is not right,
Yeah.
we will pick up on it, because if the rule is there, or if something needs to be implemented, well, why isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the reason behind it? And it's just incredible on how we see the environment. We notice things that sometimes others don't. And sometimes it's great, sometimes it's horrible, because it depends what you notice. But it's all the little things that maybe people take for granted. And that's when the rhythms come in, because I look at my day not as necessarily as routine, because I'm a mix of things. So I like routine, but I need it to be flexible enough to me to dip in and out. So I look at things as rhythms. So if I get into a rhythm, I move from one to the other. Think about a song, when the beat drops, then you go off and do something else. So I think that's quite common as well. But as I say, everybody is so different. I'm sure there are people out there that completely disagree with me. But that is, I guess, what would typically be.
And I guess those differences, and it's the same across anybody, the whole cross section of mankind, basically. What are some of the extra needs? I mean, we're actually talking about this from the perspective today, from Fleet Service GB's point of view, people driving for work, right? So we know that it's an incredibly important area. FSGB has a driver management program to try and help to train and nurture drivers and communicate with them regularly to make sure they're looked after, because essentially, if you're looking after your driver, you're looking after your fleet, right?
Of course, yeah.
What does reasonable adjustment look like to a fleet manager dealing with drivers who may have neurodivergent needs?
I think the best way to start is by communicating. I mean, you have to get it out of the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Because again, everybody is different. So the drivers, any employee needs to feel comfortable and safe enough to be able to voice when something is not going right, because I think that's the great problem. People are sometimes afraid to say that something is not working for them for the fear of repercussions.
Yeah.
Or the whole, well, if they are doing fine, it's fine. You should do fine as well. I mean, reasonable adjustments can be anything from flexibility, from giving them, autonomy with routes, when they sort out their work for the day. Sensory input is a massive one. I mean, if you think of driving, especially at night, there's a lot. You've got noise, you've got lights, you've got glare, you've got, gosh, everything and anything. And especially this time of year when the roads are busier than usual anyway,
Yeah.
because we're so close to Christmas. We need to understand that the sensory safety starts before they even get in the cab. I mean, even look at things like uniform. If you have to wear a uniform, the tags. Oh my God, the tags. They are horrible.
Yeah.
I can't stand it on the back of my neck. Just thinking about it makes me cringe.
Yes.
So even little changes like that, because if they're stressed out and the nervous system is on fire before they even put their bum in the seat, then it's only going to get progressively worse, right? So the safety starts before they even start driving.
Yes.
So I would start with that. I would start by asking questions. I would start by, even doing service. I mean, some people frown upon them, but how do you get to know what someone needs if you don't ask? But reasonable adjustments are loads of little things. If you know someone is struggling or is having an atypical sleep pattern, for example, obviously you wouldn't put them on a route when you know that technically their body should be sleeping. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
The focus needs to be on fatigue, because fatigue kills, literally and figuratively. But fatigue is more than physical fatigue. So this is why I talk a lot about safety, because people are still under the impression that safety is just physical, right? Wear your seatbelt, make sure you have your boots on properly. Don't drive with flip-flops, all those sorts of things. That's great, but safety is more than that. It's cognitive, it's emotional, it's social, it's sensory, it's all those things. So I think organizations in general need to put more effort into all the other sides of safety as well, not just the physicality of it.
Yes, and I guess that comes down to driver well-being at its very basic level, isn't it? I mean, if you've had a big fight at home before you're about to get in the car, or something else is worrying you, or you've got financial troubles or anything like that, that's not just for neurodivergent people, that's for everybody. That mental exhaustion is a lot, isn't it? So overload sometimes. Any specific policies or misconceptions which might be unintentionally excluding neurodivergent people from taking on driving roles? Anything like that you can think of?
I think sometimes with any job, to be fair, the first barrier you can meet is at the point of interview. Interviews are very performative. Interviews are very formal. It's almost as if you have to present in a certain way, because otherwise you will be dismissed. Again, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. More often than not, there is bias and stereotype, which, again, some people do it on purpose, some don't.
Yes.
But I think it's even starting to adjust the way we conduct interviews with people, because not everybody communicates the same. People may struggle with holding a conversation, as in verbally, that is. So we need to start by looking at the synchronous communication. How do we go about that? Because we know they have the skills, but they can't really, put it into words the way we may expect it to. And that already puts them at a disadvantage, because we are basing our employability, as it were, on what we can present rather than what we can do. And you're setting them up to fail from the get-go, because they don't even have a chance to show you what they're capable of, you see. But otherwise, I think sometimes it's unpredictability, especially when it comes to fleet. Because as we know, you've got call-outs, you've got all this, that, and the other, which can happen at the drop of the hat.
Yeah.
So I guess it's trying to keep that unpredictability as low as possible. I mean, we know that it can never be removed, and that's fine, because things happen. But I think to try to reduce that will help. Again, asynchronous communication. Do they want to be told where the route is? Do they need a printout? Do they need, text messages? Right. Remember that at 6:05 you need to be here. How do they communicate? Do they want it written? Do they want a one-on-one? How do they best understand it? So it's all about how you present the work that needs to be done as well, not just a case of, right, off you go, get in the car or van or what have you, and drive.
Which I think so often happens.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's when the anxiety kicks in, because you're thinking, right, I know I need to leave at 6 o'clock and I need to know I need to be there by 9. But what is happening in between?
Yeah.
Is the transitions that people, well, and employers in general don't really account for. Because transition is not a fixed thing. It's not, right, I start at A and I finish at B. There's in between. And no one accounts for the in between, which is often far more overwhelming than the actual getting. Everybody knows that how to get from A to B. But it's what happens between those times that is the most nerve-wracking. So it's accounting for transitions and it's understanding that transitioning is a process. It's not a finite point. I look at transitions as, it's got 3 phases really. It's got the integration phase. So you're psyching yourself up for this, right? I need to get up, I need to shower, I need to go, I need to be at work for 8 o'clock. So you're integrating yourself into even starting your day. Then is the entry point when you're there and then you get in the car, right, we're doing this, we've started. And then is the first part was anticipation, not integration, my apologies. And then the end of is the integration phase, right? I've done the transition and now what?
Yeah.
It's almost as if everything comes off a cliff. So you psych your way up, you do what you gotta do, and then it just flattens. And for a neurodivergent brain, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Because how do I even cope with this? What do I do now? How do I even move on from this? And then it's all the other checks afterwards. You need to do the check sheets. You need to do this. You need to sign off this. You need to, let people know what has happened. Do the reporting. Do this. Again, adapt it. Does it need to be done 5 minutes after you finished? Can you have a bit of a break? Can you do it the next day? Can you do it by a function of, how you can talk into your phone and it transcribes? Do I need to write it down? Because a lot of people, when you take dyspraxia into account as well, writing and that sort of thing can be very tricky. So do I have to write it down or can I just dictate into my phone and they do it for me?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's all these little things which effectively don't cost any money. I think this is where organizations panic when they hear neurodiversity. It's like, oh my God, how much do we have to spend? Frankly, not a lot. And this is the beautiful thing. To actually make it meaningful, you don't have to have a massive budget. You just have to have the willingness to put the effort in because the rest will come.
My next question was going to be, how can managers spot when someone's struggling? And I think you've answered it. It's communication, right? And and just sort of asking them and hearing from that individual what they need to make life manageable and successful,
And that's it, you've nailed it. I mean, I think most of the people, most organizations in general, look at inclusion as comfort.
Yes, but actually this is about being able to progress.
Exactly right.
And have that pride that we all get from doing something well.
Yeah. I mean, comfort is great. Having someone be comfortable is the first step, but that's not the be all and end all of inclusion.
No.
So it's moving right. They're comfortable, but how do we help them get better or progress or do what they need to do or what they want to do to move around? And this is why training that goes past surface level is important, because once you kind of know what to look out for, as it were, as a neurotypical person, because neurodivergent people, we flock together. Birds of a feather, we clock each other a mile away. He's got ADHD. I know he does. We just know. We feel it. We can see it in the mannerisms. We can see in the way they talk, in the way they do things. We clock each other very easy. A neurotypical might not, because even though certain things look maybe strange, they don't know where to place it.
Yeah.
Like, could this be ADHD or are they being...
And a certain amount of fear about any kind of stigma. And or being told that you are
exactly right,
unkind or, it's tricky. It is very tricky. But you have obviously done an awful lot of work on this and you've written a course to help employers with this kind of thing. So we'll make sure that we share your details to our listeners as well. Employers may fear the legal complexities of supporting neurodiversity. Where can they find advice and guidance on that?
With the legal side of things, it depends what you want to do, isn't it? I mean, when you look at statistics, 15 to 20% of adults in the UK are neurodivergent that we know of.
Yeah.
Mind you, there is a whole array of undiagnosed or self-diagnosed which don't appear on the books, right?
Yeah.
So if we take that 15 to 20%, which is still a lot of people, I won't do the math because I can't, but that's a lot. 1 in 3 does not disclose their neurodivergence to their employer for fear of stigma and for fear of repercussions or, pity or whatever else. And when you look at the numbers, that's staggering. That
And
is,
it's not a legal requirement too, is it?
a diagnosis is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
You may or may not. I mean, don't get me wrong. If it is something that it can quite drastically affect your work in whichever way that may be, like take people with fibromyalgia, for example,
Yes. Yeah.
that has a massive impact on a day-to-day capacity. That is different. But again, you don't have to. And this is where the problem arises, because that's where the masking, the burnout, people work themselves into absolute stupor, and then it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because they've reached...
And are people not declaring this because they're frightened it's going to lose them the job?
Exactly.
But
Because
of
again,
the diet.
statistically,
Yeah.
I think I'm getting this right. I think 3 out of 10 autistic work age people, so 18 plus, are unemployed.
How many, sorry?
3 out of 10. So only 3 out of 10 are employed.
Are employed. Wow.
Which is, I think, something ridiculous, like 80% less than, let's say, the general population or typical population. So legally, yes, you've got the Equality Act. Yes, you've got the Disability Act, which can be a minefield. But like I said before, reasonable adjustments, it shouldn't even get to that point where you have to look into the legality of it. It shouldn't get so far where you as an employer have to be afraid, oh God, I'm going to get sued if I don't do this, that, and the other. This is why collaboration is important. Because if you do it, if it's part of your culture, if it's part of what you do, if it's the part of how you...
It's onboarding for everybody.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to necessarily think that far. I mean, like we said before, are you always going to get it right? No. And that's fine. But as long as you fix it, then you'll be okay. No one is going to sue you for trying, So the legality of it is a minefield. It definitely is. But it shouldn't get to that. And that's the point.
What would the ideal neuroinclusive work environment look like? If you were to be able to dream into the future, how would it work? Obviously, you've talked about onboarding process for everybody to start with. Is it regular check-ins? Is it, I know that there can be a lot of sensory processing things involved. So lighting, heat, noise, all of those sort of things. What would be the ideal situation? I know that's a big ask, but tell me 2 or 3 things maybe.
I mean, I don't think you can ever create an ideal thing, because as long as you work with people, again, not two needs are the same. So what works for one, one might be freezing, one might be too hot. So you can't. But I don't know. That's a tough question. I think flexibility without rigidity. That is one thing. And that doesn't mean, like I've heard it before, I can't just let them do what they want. That's not what we're saying here. It's not like they do their own schedule and go off and, do whatever. But you have to trust people. And I think that the more we move away from this rigid thing that it has to be done this way by a certain time in this specific way, there's nothing worse as a business of saying we've always done it this way. Well, clearly it's not working anymore, because that's why people leave.
Yeah.
If you were doing it right, people wouldn't leave, right? Yeah. So flexibility without rigidity, that would be
I'm
one.
a big believer actually in KPIs, setting people right. As long as you get that done, I don't care how you do it. I don't care how you get from A to B, as long as you're safe and all of those things are in place. But there can still be accountability. So employers should be assured there can still be accountability and a productivity from that employee, but they might need a lot more flexibility in how they
get there. I mean, mind you, we also have to look at authentic versus performative accountability.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not the thing. What looks good on paper doesn't necessarily work in real life.
Right.
So there's a massive difference there as well. Because yes, the bottom line matters, costing matters, keeping the business afloat matters, but that is performative. Because if you're only looking at the data without looking at what happened to get there, that's performative, not authentic. And it means nothing. On paper, it looks fantastic, but again, when it comes to your employees and when it comes to your culture, it doesn't prove anything to anyone, but it is important. It is important because accountability is part of life. We adults, we need to take, the rough with the smooth and accept consequences when they come. But again, the consequences have to make sense. Like, for example, putting someone on leave just because they're not performing at 90% constantly, that's not right. Because especially when it comes to neurodivergent people, we need to think about fluctuating capacity. Just because I could do it yesterday doesn't mean I could do it today or the next day or the next day, because capacity fluctuates, which is massively impacted by environment. And I think this is where people don't understand that actually when you're sitting in a room with other people or even by yourself, there is constant input. When you control the input, that's great. When you can't, it's horrible. Like take me, for instance, noise is my biggest trigger. It's a bit rich coming from someone that listens to heavy metal at full blast, but that is noise that I control.
Yeah.
I can choose which song I listen to. I can choose the volume. I can choose the beat. I can choose the tempo. And literally, when I wear my headphones, I can't hear anything else. That's how loud it is. And that doesn't overwhelm me because it's chosen. If I'm in a room with 56 people, they're all talking at once and they're all, shuffling papers and moving, my brain just goes, nope, I'm done. And I need to walk away. And if I can't walk away, I get angry. And by that point, you've lost me. It doesn't matter then if you come to me and reassure me, oh, it's all right. Well, no, it's not, because it wasn't all right 10 minutes ago. But you didn't allow me to leave.
Yes. Yeah.
So safety comes in the knowledge that if you entrust someone with your differences, they will take it face value.
It could be as simple as someone having the radio on in the office, right? So that drives me bonkers. I can't handle it at all. Whereas I know some people find that really soothing and nice background noise. But it's possibly because I haven't chosen that. Whereas actually, if I chose something to listen to, it might be slightly different. So that's again about not just employers, but colleagues talking to each other.
Exactly.
And understanding what people like and don't like, and not just assuming someone else is enjoying that because you are.
Then I think for neurodivergent people, open offices are hell.
Yeah. And there's so many more of them, aren't there? That's the thing. And then especially as everyone's gone back after COVID, I think we had a really great change in culture, I think, to a lot of trust and working from home, which has now gone back to office-based to some extent. And for some people, that might be really very difficult. I know that different industries definitely saw different types of productivity during COVID. So for marketing, which is what I do, it was a bit of a disaster because we needed that collaboration, and sometimes being in a room and being able to be at a desk together, standing up and noisy was great. For people who are writing software, it was marvelous. They went up in productivity.
Yep.
Happy, headphones on, head down, no one's bothering me. No chatter, no. So yeah, it's interesting. I think I'd like to know what, I guess, is one message that you would want our listeners to take away from this conversation.
Ask.
Yeah.
Just ask and trust your staff. Because if you are a business owner, irrespective if you're, a small business, if you run a team of 5 or you run a team of 500, trust the people that work for and with you. Because if you don't, it doesn't matter what you do. They need to feel like they are valued, and they need to feel that they can come to you. Because people work with people. Policies don't change culture, people do. So if they don't have that safety in knowing that no matter what happens, they have someone to go to, or someone would at least ask the questions on their behalf, then what are we even doing? We need people. As much as we sometimes hate it, we need them. We can't always be on our own. So I think that's what I would say, and invest in your people. Because if you look at costing, which comes up in every single meeting I have with anyone, it's, oh, well, how much is this going to cost? To replace an employee can cost the business anything between 20 to 200%. To do training and to do onboarding is a fraction of the cost. Because let's say you hire someone to do this, training for you and the onboarding and the ongoing well-being thing and all of that. Let's say 20 grand for the whole package, right? That's a number thrown out there. I have no idea how much it is. But let's just say for argument's sake, 20 grand, which is quite, a hefty chunk of money for training purposes, right? But to replace an employee, a neurodivergent employee in particular, because they couldn't cope with the environment or couldn't cope with the work that was being set out, etc., it can cost you anything from 35 grand onwards, because you need to look at the cost that it takes to hire someone else. But it's the hidden costs that people don't think about. Well, we just hire someone else and we'll advertise it for 5 grand less and we'll save money. No, you won't. Because by the time you hire, that's one less person in boots on the ground. Then you have to pull someone else out to train the new guy. loss of productivity, because then you have two people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So then you'll see gaps in productivity. I mean, let's not talk about morale. If someone got close to that person that now is left, the morale in the office goes down. Oh, I really liked him. And now he's gone. He was my friend. We used to banter. Where's he gone? That brings you down. So it's the hidden costs that people don't take into account. So training of any nature, be it software, be it neurodivergence, be it well-being, be it what have you, saves money. I can't stress this enough to businesses. It saves you money in the long run because it boosts retention, without shadow of a doubt. Because when people feel valued, when they feel looked after, and when their needs are met, why would they leave? You don't leave where it's good for you. You leave when it's bad.
I guess in the case of drivers as well, this is actually really straightforward cost saving, isn't it? I mean, if they're happy and well cared for and looked after, they're going to care for their vehicles better. They're going to make sure their vehicle checks are completed. They're going to be checking in with the employers if there's that communication. FSGB has an app which can basically talk directly to drivers. So that's something which I think could be used more. And I think actually what I've taken away from this is actually we could be promoting more on that app about this subject, which would be really good. And it might give those drivers a voice to actually stand up and say, actually, I am going to speak to my employer about the fact that I'm uncomfortable with this or that.
I mean, self-advocacy is tricky. Not everyone can do it. I think you need to reach a level of self-awareness, but also trust and safety that you can self-advocate. I don't have any issue with doing it myself. If something is not working, I will tell you, but not everyone.
You surprised me with that too.
Oh, do I? Sorry. Just ask Sarah, she'll know. But not everybody has that confidence.
Yeah.
So how do you go past that? Because they might need something desperately, but they're so overwhelmed and they're so fearful that they will push through and push through and push through, and then what? And when it comes to drivers as well, I mean, when we talk about fleet, stop talking about vehicles. You can fix vehicles, you can't fix people. So it's people that drive the fleet, not vehicles. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Of course, the
I'm going
vehicles.
to quote that. That's okay.
Of course, vehicles need to be, up to scratch and up to spec. Legal requirements and roadworthiness. That goes without saying. It's the physical aspect of things which cannot be overlooked. But it's the person behind the wheel that drives it.
Yeah.
And if the car may be up to spec, but if the person is not, you can drive the best and biggest car ever created. You can still crash it. It's irrelevant. So in our industry in particular, is please remember that it's the people, not the cars or vans or trucks or what have you.
And finally, I've got 2 questions for you. First of all, have you seen change since you've been working in this area? Have you seen improvements in the way that we
slowly
treat this? Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit hopeful.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that the louder the voices get, the less likely they are to be ignored. So whereas, let's say maybe even a decade ago, it was still, people still quite shy, I guess, in approaching the subject. Now the community has grown massively, and there's a lot of people out there that do such incredible work in every single sector, starting from early years for children, moving all the way up to massive organizations. So it's going, we are moving forward. Sometimes snail's pace, sometimes, it lags a bit behind, but as long as it's moving forward, that's good. So change is happening because, as I said, there's only so much you can ignore. And like we said earlier, 15 to 20% of people are neurodivergent. This is not a minority. This is not, oh, we've got one idea here in the office. It really isn't. It's part of the majority, funnily enough. And I think that the more people understand that actually there's a lot of us out there, far more than you think, that's why it should become the norm. Because accessibility doesn't just suit the people that need it. It suits everyone. And I guess this is one other massive misconception is that, oh, well, if we do it for him, we'll need to do it for everyone else. Well, yeah, because accessibility and equity have to be part of the design. It's not an add-on. It's not something that you slap as a sticker on and say, oh, we've done this. It's not a coffee morning or a random awareness day in March or whenever the hell it is. It's something that you build in the design. And if you do it like that, then you have less to worry about as you go along,
And what's next for you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know.
More research, more podcasts, more.
I'm open to all sorts. I mean, I'll do podcasts. I'll do articles like I've done for Fleet News and Fleet World, which was good fun. I write a lot. People keep bugging me to write a book, but I wouldn't know where to start, because writing an article is one thing, 1,200 or 3,000 words. But a book, I wouldn't know when to start. I wouldn't.
Maybe you
know.
publish your articles.
Yeah,
in one book.
That's what people say. So I just put it on, alphabetical order, nice and visual. I'm like, yeah, but why would anyone pay for that when you can get it online for free? But that's a different conversation. I don't know. I mean, I'm developing lots of training courses. I do concentrate on adults because, like I've said before, I think there's a gap there. Still raising my kids, they're still neurodivergent. They'll forever be neurodivergent. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, ideally, I want people to be more open to talking about these things and asking the uncomfortable questions, because you're less likely to offend a neurodivergent person by asking and showing that willingness of learning than just getting it wrong and then burying your head in the sand. So I think that the more we talk about it, the more we put things into place, the better it will be. So I'm here for it, for all of it.
Fantastic. Teo, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really enlightening, and I hope we go some way towards spreading that message.
I hope so too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.